Hello, Sister Louise. My name is Anjali. I will be one of the people interviewing you. Kylie, Bianca, and Letitia will also be interviewing you on the Catholic Church community within Australia, and also a few questions on your life as a sister.
Now, we are particularly interested in your life and experiences as a Paul Clare sister. The first question we have for you today is, what brought you to the St. Clare's community?
What brought me to St Clare's community? Well, I was baptised over at Mary Immaculate Church, a Franciscan church, and I went to St Charles School, which was had all the sisters teaching. Then I came to the college, so I was brought up within a Franciscan community.
The St. Clare's community must have impacted your life greatly. What were you doing before you joined the community?
Before I joined the community, do you mean as a sister?
Yeah. Yes.
I was a sister. I was a student at the college, and we were taught by sisters. We had only a few lay teachers. They were just being introduced, but we had the sisters, and I was very impressed by their way of relating to the girls, just their whole being, just by who they were and what they did.
Your life before joining sisterhood was very different compared to your life now. How do you think this difference changed your perspective of the Catholic Church?
Being a Paul Clare sister, I have come to know a lot more, going back to St Clare and St Francis, the impact that they had upon the Catholic Church, how they were great reformers, and how the people just sort of began to think, yes, this is what the world needs. And now, as I've been a Paul Clare sister for many years, I think I too have had my eyes opened. A lot of things have changed. Social justice issues have become very key issues, but I think we should be immersing all that within a context of Christianity and within a context of God's great love for us, and how do we return that great love.
You were also previously the principal of St Clare's. When you were teaching, who were the main people in the Catholic Church of Sydney?
I think Cardinal George Pell was the cardinal at the time, and at that time we were considering, so what do we need to do with the college? I was acting principal actually, and I came into the position as we were looking for the very best principal to take on the role of principal at the college. And so we took a little while to find that person, and we found Mrs. Terry Hershaw had applied for the role. She's had a great impact upon bringing Clare alive for the students.
The Catholic community is always changing while society and technology develops. Well, what about the Paul Clare sisters? Do you think the Paul Clares have made any impact on the development of the church since the 1950s?
I always think our lives are like a beautiful garden, and I think that the people are like seeds that are planted, or young plants that are put in, and they have to be cared for, they have to be nurtured, and if they are given that right kind of nourishment, they will bloom, they will flourish, and they will bring great beauty to creation. And I believe that people are like that. They have to be nourished. And when I say nourished, I mean by the way people relate to them and care for them and love them. And I think the Paul Clare sisters have done that. With the latest ex-students newsletter that went out, and there was lots of news about the college in it, one former student who left the college 50 years ago wrote congratulating the college and all who had written in it on the wonderful way in which the spirit of Francis and Clare seems to be alive and flourishing. So I think the sisters have had a great impact upon people like that. And I've had 2 letters this week from ex-students who were at the college in the 1930s and one in the 1940s. Wow. So they were telling me how much the sisters have had an impact upon their lives, what they learn at school and how they still, how still it's important for them in this day and age.
It is obvious that the sisterhood is a family that should be appreciated, especially by the coming future generations. What do you personally think should be a future requirement of the Catholic community in order to preserve the sisterhood?
Well, first off, I think the young women or women who sort of wish to become Paul Clare sisters, they need to have a generous heart. They need to have a generous heart in responding to the call of God. If they feel that God is calling them into consecrated life, to be generous and to respond, to take steps to try and nourish and develop that desire. I think too that we need to have people who are willing to listen to all that the Church is asking today. The Pope in particular, as head of the Catholic Church, is having a wonderful impact, and he is leading by example. And that is what he is asking us to do.
Many other individuals within the Catholic community have affected the development of the Catholic Church and the sisterhood. One of the individuals, especially in the recent Archbishop Anthony Fisher. Do you think he made any huge impacts on the Catholic Church within Australia?
I think that Archbishop Fisher is doing what he can do. He has a very difficult job because there are so many people in society today who, to be religious or to have a spirituality, it's not cool. You just don't do it. And there are a lot of people who, even though they may want to sort of express their faith or their spirituality, they go with the crowd. And I think that the leaders of the Church today have a huge role to play, because it's not only in churchy kind of issues, but they're being judged upon every word they say in all kinds of areas. Politics, in creation, you know, sort of the care of the world, just everything in the environment. So they're being judged and criticised. If people don't like what they say, well, they're just torn to pieces.
Yes, Anthony Fisher is quite an influential archbishop. That's it for today. Thank you, Sr Louise, for coming down. We greatly appreciate you answering our questions. Hello, Sr Pia and Sr Joanne. It is great to have you here today. My name is Angeli, and I, along with Bianca, Kylie, and Letitia, was wondering about your experience in the St Clair's community. Our first burning question is, why did you decide to join the St Clair's community?
I suppose it was God who was urging me for a start. I understand that now. But I was a student here at St Clair's, and I loved St Clair's College. I had gone to St Charles, came up here, and I loved the sisters who were teaching me. And something was stirring in me, an attraction to do what they had done. I didn't realise then, but it was God at work in my life, inspiring me through them to give my life to God. That's how it all happened.
Joining the St Clair's community must have been a huge commitment. During your time as a sister, have you noticed any changes within the Catholic education system?
I'm not a teacher, so for me, I'm only giving you my experience from an outsider in a sense. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I think I noticed it really strongly, before I went to the Franciscan school, I said to you I hated school, and I did. But once I went to this school, which is in what is now known as a Year 8, one of the things that I noticed was different was the care of the teachers and the sisters for the students. And I think for me, that's what's become stronger and stronger. So as I've got to know even St Clair's College, and even though I've never really worked here, is the care that the teachers have for their students. And I think for me that's the greatest change. Like I think before it was kind of like, well, you have to come to school and you have to be taught and that was it. Whereas now I think that there's a real sense of caring for the whole person, and that has become a really important thing. So I think that's what I've noticed.
School back then must have been so different. Do you believe that this change was triggered by the introduction of Vatican II? And how did it change your own experience?
Well, definitely, yes. Yes. Vatican II, the call of Vatican II from Pope, who is a saint now, John the 23rd, he said, let us open our windows and welcome, the Holy Spirit to make changes in our church. And that's what happened. A call was made to sisters and priests and brothers and lay people too to look to upgrading our church to meet the modern world. And that was a very big thing that happened. A lot of bishops, well, all the bishops, most probably from around the world, most of them, were called to a meeting in Rome, which was the Vatican Council. And they looked at a whole lot of range of things, and after Vatican II, a lot of things changed in the church. So it did have a very big impact, yes. I think for the better.
For me, so I grew up during the Vatican II early years. So for me, I often say to the sisters, what was it like going to Mass? Because the Mass used to be said in Latin, and I don't have that experience. I only have a sense of Mass being said in English. And I was thinking how, for me, I think what Vatican II tried to do was to bring God closer to the people. Now, God is always close to people, but I think what happened before Vatican II was almost like God was up there and we're down here and we've just got to do everything right. Whereas what I think what Vatican II tried to do was to help people understand how much God loves them. And I think we can see that in our liturgies. And so I feel, in a sense, blessed that that's where I think the church is trying to, as Sister Joanne said, it opened the windows, and I think by that it also allowed people to come closer to God. And I think one of the things that I think was the most beautiful thing about Vatican II was what they call the universal call to holiness, that Vatican II tried to help people see how we're all called to a relationship with God. So I think for me that was the most beautiful thing with Vatican II.
Something else that happened around the time was that Edward Clancy was in the role of Archbishop. He was known as an influential man, and it was with his support that Mary MacKillop became canonised. He brought great change to the Catholic Church of Australia. What were your personal thoughts on this?
Personal thoughts, Edward Clancy. Well, for a start, Edward Clancy's family comes from Richmond, and we're going to that area to live. I certainly would have encountered him coming to do confirmations here in the parish, and he was an influential man. And if he was instrumental in getting Mary MacKillop canonised, well, that's a great thing, feather in his cap. I didn't have a lot of personal contact with him, so yes, there were a lot of other influential church people in our lives, even the friars, and the bishop who gave permission for us to come to Australia. I was trying to think who that was, Vaughan. Then there was another Cardinal, Moran, and he was getting elderly and hard to cooperate with, and I think he wanted to send us back to Ireland. However, the Lord took over that little problem and he died before he had time to do it. He was elderly, so it was time for him to go.
The sisters had nothing to do with it.
Sister Pia and Sister Joanne, thank you very much for allowing us to interview you today. We have learned a lot of interesting things about the development of the Catholic Church and you have been a great help.
Welcome, Father Bernie. We appreciate you coming here today. We were wondering if we could ask some questions for you today, focus around the previous and current archbishops and how they have shaped the Australian Church.
Anthony is certainly establishing his own way of leadership. I think he came in with a reputation of being one of George Pell's boys, or like one of his young men that he trained, because he certainly was trained by Cardinal Pell. So I think what he's trying to do at the moment, what I see, is that he's trying to be quite independent about who he is and about his leadership. There's the Royal Commission that's been going for the last 4 years to do with, so as you say, misconduct of people in power, misuse of power with young children, young people particularly. So the church really hasn't had a very good, not good press for some of the things the priests have done in the past. Some priests, a few of the priests anyhow. So Archbishop Anthony, sadly for him, has inherited all that, dare I say, crap that's goes with it. So he's making a very clear leadership role in the sense of how we are to deal with our lives professionally as priests. Some of the things we have to do now as priests is we can't just go into another parish and celebrate Mass without actually getting permission of the other priests. We have to be able to sign a document. We have a special card as priests that we have to use when we go anywhere else because of the Royal Commission.
That's very true. In your personal opinion, if you had to give one piece of advice for the future Archbishop that could help in the advancement of the Church in the future, what would it be?
Look after your priests and focus on the pastoral ministry rather than the hierarchical church. You know, I think sometimes we get caught up with the power and the hierarchical nature of the church and big liturgies and all that. And I think sometimes our bishops, and this is not aiming at Archbishop Anthony or anybody, I think some of our bishops often can get caught up with the hierarchical nature rather than the pastoral nature. So where I come from in Auckland, it's a very different diocese to here. That we have a very pastoral bishop. I'm not saying none of us are perfect, but he's quite pastoral.
Your responses have been very informative. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. You've been a great help.